Good evening, and welcome to the Miracle of Prosperity. I am your host, Reverend Jim Webb, Senior Minister of the Tacoma Metaphysical Chapel in Silver Spring, Maryland, and author of the book, The Soul of Prosperity, as well as the books 30 P's to Prosperity, Prosperity from A to Z, and Creating Your Self-Manifesting Vision Board. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. And each week at this time, we discuss prosperity. We discuss prosperity in its broadest sense, not just as money and stuff, but we discuss all the different facets of prosperity. We understand that prosperity can take many forms because prosperity is just the love of God taking form. So we look at professional prosperity, where, in the words of Florence Scovel Shinn, we have a wonderful job with wonderful pay, where we offer a wonderful service in a wonderful way. We also look at family prosperity, where our families and our family relationships are sources of support, inspiration, healing, and harmony. We look at relationship prosperity, where all of our relationships are outer reflections of an inner harmony and an inner self-support that we develop. And of course, we look at logistical prosperity, where our lives work more easily and effortlessly with a minimal amount of struggle, pain, or suffering. And yes, of course, financial prosperity, where our finances are no longer a source of worry or concern, but instead are a source of joy, and we have more than enough to spare, and more than enough to share. So these are just some of the dimensions of prosperity, but we look at it all, and we realize then that if prosperity is simply the forms of love God's love would take, then our task, like the Sufi poet Rumi said, is to simply remove the blockages to our prosperity so that we can allow the unlimited source of God to shine through us and that love to take all the outer forms we deserve and desire. So we learn to look at prosperity in this new way, and we learn to embrace all the different aspects of prosperity and all the different approaches to prosperity. Now, I was drawn to a book recently. I was drawn to the book first because Monet is my favorite artist and I love impressionistic paintings, and the cover was an impressionistic painting reminiscent of a Monet. But then when I looked at the title, I was drawn even more. And when I looked at the content, I was excited. The title of the book, Impressions of Near-Death Experiences, is a compilation of interviews that our guest has taken with many people who have had near-death experiences. And so I'm glad to introduce our guest for tonight, Bob Koppes, who's coming to us from the Netherlands. Bob, I'm so glad that you agreed to join us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you very much for having me on your show, for inviting me. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And you may wonder why I was so attracted to the content in your book. And the reason why is because you so eloquently and so deeply described the euphoria, the peace, the perspective, and the healing that is a result of near-death experiences. And one of the impressions that I came away with is that people who have NDE experiences have had an experience that is similar to the inner prosperity that we all crave, that then can allow outer prosperity. So NDEers have a sense of oneness with God, a deep sense of peace, a deep sense of being bigger than themselves and outside of their human limitations. And those are the same prerequisites for prosperity. So that's why I wanted to share you with our guests tonight. So some of our guests may wonder, what is a near-death experience anyway?
Ah, yes. That is difficult to define that.
Yes.
An NDE, in any case, is an overwhelming experience that people
Mm-hmm.
have, and it doesn't always occur during a medical critical situation, which is thought of so often. So, like in a cardiac arrest or in an accident, but it can occur also in other circumstances, like in a psychological crisis, with
Mm-hmm.
prayer, with meditation, but
Yes.
also spontaneously. But in
Mm-hmm.
any case, people uh, get out of their body, and
Mm-hmm.
then the next phase is where they experience unearthly situations like
Mm-hmm.
landscapes or light,
Yes.
or and they really believe, and they are convinced that
Mm-hmm.
they have been on the other side of life, or even
Yes.
on the doorstep of heaven. They are really convinced about that. And the descriptions they give of this other world are not earthly. It is,
Mm-hmm.
they find it very difficult to explain what they have seen because we don't have
We
enough
don't have a
words.
context for it here.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Fascinating. So, one of the things you mentioned just triggered another question, and that is a near death experience is somewhat like an out of body experience. Would you say they are synonymous or on the same continuum? How would you compare the two?
They're not the same. An out of body
Okay.
experience can happen, and then people are out of the body, and then they can roam around the vicinity of their body. But with an NDE, there's a second phase. They go
Okay.
somewhere. They go to an otherworldly environment that's not on Earth. It's not
Mm-hmm.
near their body, or it's not somewhere else.
Hmm.
You know, there are stories where people can just go wherever they want to go
Yes.
after they left their body. So in an out of body situation, you seem to be able to go to places on earth,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then see what is happening there, and then you have to come back again. And there are stories in my book where there are, in this case, an Iranian guy who had an accident somewhere in the middle of a desert. He was taken
Yes.
to a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
During that phase in the hospital, he had his near death experience. And in
Mm-hmm.
his near death experience, he saw what is happening in the operating room. He saw the nurse, he saw the doctors performing all kinds of things on his body. But then he
Yes.
thought of his mother, and he was in the house of his mother. His
Yes.
spirit was there, and he
Yes.
could see what she was doing. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, then he also thought of friends, and then he was in the house of the friends and saw what they did.
Yes.
So
Yes.
he could be in three or more places at the same time. And that's something
Hmm.
you cannot do when you're in the body. I
Yes.
can't do that as of now.
Yes. True. That was one of my favorite stories from your book, in addition to the one about the watch. I think it was either a watch or one of the, yeah, I think it was the watch where the person had the near-death experience and saw where they put his watch. And 3 days later, he came back and he said, "Oh, my watch is here. This is where you put it." Or either it was the
That was
watch or something.
his dentures, his
The
dentures.
dentures, the dentures. Thank you.
This guy was, and that's a very important story. And there are hundreds of these kind of stories. They give
Yes.
verifiable out of body experiences. Like this
Yes.
guy had a massive heart attack in
Yes.
the Netherlands somewhere in a meadow. They took him into the hospital, and
Hmm.
in the hospital they performed resuscitation on him. So, and that
Yes.
worked, but that worked after a long time. He was
Hmm.
out all the time. He couldn't
Hmm.
have seen what happened during that resuscitation. And what
Hmm.
happened was that one of the nurses saw that he still had his dentures, which is difficult if you do a resuscitation, especially
Right.
intube someone.
Yes.
So what happened was that this guy took out his dentures and put it in a crash cart. Now,
Yes.
the NDEer, the patient, saw everything from just below the ceiling where he was, and he
Mhm.
saw that the nurse put this in his crash cart. Now, the nurse went on holidays for a few days, and the guy was saved, the NDEer. And then after the little holiday, the NDEer saw the nurse back again in the hospital. And he
Mhm.
said to this guy, "You are the one who knows where my dentures are. You put them in a little crash cart or in this little thing there in a
Mhm.
drawer, and I can't. No one can find it." And then this nurse went finding it because he got the information where the dentures were.
Yes.
That this gives you, and this was verified and also independently confirmed that this really happened. These
Yes.
kind of situations learn that your consciousness can be outside your body, and this gives you circumstantial evidence that your consciousness can be independent from your body. And there are hundreds
Yes.
of stories.
And that's so very important. So, what are some of the key aspects that you find are common to all near death experiences?
It's difficult to say that it occurs in all NDEs, but the one thing that I would mention is the unconditional love that people see and
Yes.
feel. There are also distressing NDEs, but most of them turn back into blissful ones, and they feel this
Mhm.
unconditional love too. But the unconditional love is something that is told over and over again by people. It's
Yes.
a central thing. It comes from the light that they see. It comes from the light beings that they see. It even if they are in this, if they hang in this black void. Some
Yes.
people go to this black void,
Hmm.
uh, and even then, this unconditional love is felt there.
Yes. And that's
Ellen Guy,
wonderful.
one of the people in your
Yes.
community, had that story where she was hanging in this black void,
Hmm.
and she felt loved all over. It was such a
Yes.
blissful experience. And then after a little while, she thought, well, um, this is nice, but maybe the scene could be a little bit different because I'm only looking at the dark. And then
Hmm.
what happened was that, as she said it in her on her website, she said it was as if a hand with brushes came along and painted the most beautiful landscape with rolling
Yes.
hills and
Yes.
butterflies and trees and flowers and whatever, the things that she wanted to see. And it's like, if you ask for something, it seems like they will grant it to you. It's almost fairy tale like, but it's real. And that we know from veridical observation, so the verifiable out of body experiences.
Yes. Ellen Dye is such an esteemed member of our community, as is
She's such
Don
a
Luckett.
fun lady. She's
And
really nice.
I was so thrilled to see that you had several quotes of hers. One of the quotes that you had of hers just described this unconditional love. Do you remember that quote?
The unconditional love. No, I know about the oneness that she felt. Is that the one you
Yes.
meant? Yeah.
Yes, that's the one I
Can I
mean.
read it to
Yes.
you?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
I have my book open, and
Okay.
it's well, this is what she said. You have to know that she had this wonderful experience after the rolling hills and the butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what she said. I knew suddenly that I was back inside God, where I truly belong, where all of us truly belong. I realized, or remembered rather, that God is not a person or a personality, even though humans like to portray him as that. The
Mm-hmm.
God I was experiencing is all that is. God
Mm-hmm.
is everything, including each one of us. God
Mm-hmm.
is the creative force of all the universes, a
Mm-hmm.
giant ocean of love, from which
Mm.
all matter is created. And I was a little drop in that ocean.
Mm.
Once had been separated and was finally back where I belonged. And the last sentence is what it all boils down to, that you are part of that ocean. And you have
Mm.
been separated while being on earth. But
Hmm.
finally, we will be reunited with that ocean of love and
Yes.
creativity that we are part of. We are part of this. And she also says that we are part of God.
Mm.
The interesting thing is, she's not the only one that says things like that. The idea of unity is
Mm.
something that I found very regularly in all these
Hmm.
NDEs that I came across.
Yes.
People really feel that they are part of this oneness, and it's some people go further. Most people would say we are interconnected. We are
Yes.
very thoroughly interconnected. But some
Hmm.
people go further. They say we are one, or we are part of
Mm.
God. And
Hmm.
I just put it there as they say it.
Hmm.
For some people, it would be too far if they think they are
Yes.
part of God. But
Yes.
just I quote the people who have had these NDEs, and
Hmm.
these are the things they say. So
Hmm.
I just repeat what they say, and that's in
Yes.
my book. I repeat all the NDEs, and
Hmm.
the thing with all these quotes, it will give readers a good view or a good impression of what an NDE is, and that's
Yes.
why I called the book Impressions of Near-Death
Impressions.
Experiences, and that is why I had the cover of Monet there, and the cover is, the Impressionists got their name
Yes.
from that particular painting that's on my book. So that's the reason why I have it there.
Yes. Well, that is all so wonderful. And what struck me, as I mentioned before, is that people who have had NDEs seem to have had a sense of euphoria, a sense of being a part of something bigger than themselves, a sense of transcendence where they transcended their bodies and their human circumstances, and they realized that they were more than a body, they were spirit.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of a very important lesson in A Course in Miracles. I am not a body, I am free. I am still as God created me, because they became untethered from their human body, their human personality, their human limitations, foibles, trials, and tribulations, and they became their spirits in that moment. And that freedom gave them a sense of power. You mentioned Ellen creating a new scenario in that moment with her mind.
Yes.
And as a spirit, she was able to do that in her. And that was a power that she did not experience in her humanity. And
Yes.
so, what struck me was the parallels between people who have an NDE and what we study in A Course in Miracles, and how it all leads to prosperity. And that's what I'd like to explore with you further on the other side of the break. So we're going to go to a break right now. And on the other side, let's discuss that here on
Great.
the,
Thank
yes,
you.
we'll discuss that on the New Thought Media Network.
People of African Descent New Thought Group proudly presents Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village, Thursday, August 1st through Sunday, August 4th. Some of our greatest keynote speakers, some of our finest musicians and vocalists, some of our amazing and experienced panelists, and some of our fabulous masterclass presenters will be there for you at Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village this summer. Regular registration ends June 30th, so don't delay. Register today at padntg.com. Sponsorship opportunities are available at padntg.com. Volunteer opportunities are available at padntg.com. Go there now, padntg.com. See you there.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
And we're back here on the New Thought Media Network, The Miracle of Prosperity, with author Bob Coppice, who is the author of Impressions of Near-Death Experiences. And we're going to explore that some more. The thing that always intrigued me, Bob, is how did you get into the study of NDEs?
Oh, Jim, that's a good question. I've always been spiritually oriented. When I was studying in a big town up north in the Netherlands, Groningen, I was doing economics. I came across the book by Raymond Moody. And
Raymond Moody?
Raymond Moody.
Yes, I know that book. Yes.
Life After Life. It's a very
Yes, I love that book. Yes.
Because he coined the term near-death experiences. So, and I didn't know what they were, but when I read through the book, there was a place where there was a story about a woman who had her life review in her near-death experience. That some people have that. Not, you asked me before, what is an NDE? Not every NDE is the same as another. They are all different. Everyone experienced something else, but it still boils down to the same thing. Now, she had her life review, and many people have a life review. How it is shown is different, but in her case, she had all these pictures, I think, and then the thing that she thought was so interesting is that there was no one judging her, even though she had done things that she wasn't proud of. And then I thought, this is true, because that's something that resonated with me, as I was born. I was raised Roman Catholic, and was raised with hell and purgatory, and I never liked that story. And I didn't believe it either. I couldn't imagine God, who is loving, who sent people to hell. I couldn't understand that. And now in this book, it said, there's no judgment. And then I thought, then there is no hell either, because why would there be a hell? And I still believe that there is no hell. Even though there are some people who have had distressing NDEs. But the thing is, you cannot say that a bad person, however you want to describe that, will only have a distressing NDE, and good people will have blissful ones. We have a lot of examples where it is vice versa, where there's a very common woman, and there are a few who wrote their books, had a distressful NDE, and a guy who killed off a lot of people had a blissful one. So, but the life review really did it for me. So that's where I thought I want to study this. I want to follow this,
Yes.
even though I did my economics and I didn't want
Yes.
to be there. So I had two ways to go. One way was the materialistic way, and the other way was
Yes.
the spiritual way, which is
Okay, so what attracted you to it was the energy idea of unconditional love
yeah,
and the spiritual bent of that, which was different than your upbringing. Is that accurate?
exactly. That's how you put it well, Jim. Yes,
Okay. That helps me to understand, and that helps all our viewers to understand. And our viewers also understand how your refutation of hell. Many of our viewers understand that hell was never a physical place. They understand that hell was basically from a story that was repeated several times. Uh, the most notable in the Bible, although it was repeated several times in the Bible, was the story of King Ahaz or Abraham and Isaac, the same story, where he was directed by God to go outside of the city limits and kill his firstborn son with a knife. And it's a violent image, and an image that, when you think about their culture, your firstborn son was your most prized possession. So why would a loving God tell you to go out and kill them?
exactly.
And and so hell was in the story of Abraham and Isaac. He had to go out of the walls of Jerusalem to do it. Well, outside of the walls of Jerusalem was Gehenna Denora. Gehenna Denora was where they burned all the trash. And the reason that they burned all the trash was because if they kept the trash in the city walls, it would attract rats, and rats would attract disease. So they had this continual fire outside of Jerusalem called Gehenna Denora. And so he was asked to go out to Gehenna Denora and kill his firstborn son with a knife. And he was in torment. The reason that he was in torment was because how could a loving God ask me to do this? He was confused. He was upset. He was in torment. And he was in Gehenna Denora. Now, now, what did Gehenna Denora translate to? Well, as you know, the Bible was written in Aramaic. It was translated into Greek, then to Latin, and then into German. And through all these translations, Gehenna Denora, which was used to depict the everlasting fires outside of the walls of Jerusalem, Gehenna Denora was actually, by the time it got to German, hell. So it wasn't a place we go in the afterlife.
Yeah.
It was like we say, I'm in the doghouse. If somebody's mad at me, you're in hell when you're in a state of turmoil, confusion, sadness, doubt, fear, or anything unlike love. He was in hell. So I love how you prompted this discussion of hell not being a place we go in the afterlife, but hell being an internal mental state that is a blockage to prosperity. So thank you for bringing that up. That is absolutely wonderful. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to explore your journey into NDEs, because it all began with you seeking a sense of unconditional love and seeking to recognize yourself as a part of something bigger than yourself, more loving than yourself, and more than your body. Now, what I alluded to before, Bob, was that there's a line in A Course in Miracles: I am not a body. I am free. I am still as God created me. Now, in our human minds, we think of ourselves as sinful, wrong, not enough. And all of those energies, and let's call them, now that we've built a context for it, let's call those hellish energies. All of those energies block the flow of prosperity, because prosperity is simply love, and like attracts like. And if we are vibrating in a way unlike love, it is difficult to attract the loving energy that creates prosperity within us and outside of us. Now, it seems that many people who have had NDEs have had that deeply profound and transcendent experience of unconditional love that we all seek as a seed for prosperity. Would that be accurate? What do you think?
The unconditional love is something that it is something that gives people more. It gives energy. It will bring people further. That's for sure. But the problem is if you live, not everyone lives in a loving environment. I mean,
Yes,
you can just look at a few places in the world where there are wars,
yes,
but not only war zones. There are a
yes,
lot of places, even
yes,
in domestic situations where people live in a let's say a difficult, hateful environment. That's not
yes,
a place where you thrive as a person.
yes,
But
yes,
the thing that we know from NDEs is that um, we are all loved, each of us, beyond our wildest dreams.
yes,
If you are in such a situation, and
yes,
even if you are a perpetrator, I mean,
mhm,
love is there for everyone. I
yes,
just say it because this is what I understand from NDEers. There's
yes,
no exception to having to receiving this love.
yes,
And sometimes, I think, why are there people, and everyone has examples that you really don't like. There may be politicians or your boss or somewhere around you,
mhm,
but there
yes,
are always people that you think, why would there be love for that person? Well,
yes,
I think because um, God, or I'd rather use another name, the Supreme One, is
mhm,
in everyone. The light is in everyone. It is
yes,
we are divine in our core, and that
yes,
applies to everyone. And the reason
yes,
why some people do terrible things is because of two reasons, in my opinion.
yes. I want to drill down on what you just said because it was so profound. The light is in everyone. And
Yes,
that brings us to the miracle of prosperity. A Course in Miracles is a course that causes us and enables us to develop, cultivate, and experience that inner light. It is a course of self psychology, spiritual psychology, and through the exercises, we get to cultivate that inner sense of unconditional love,
yes,
that inner experience of unconditional love, and that inner feeling that is synonymous with the feelings and experiences that indie ears have had. And that miracle is a shift in perspective in the same way that indie ears have had a shift
yes,
in perspective. And through that cultivation of that inner energy, that inner perspective, that inner place that can tap into the source of unconditional love, we can create, let's call it a bank of goodwill, a bank of unconditional love, a bank of a differing consciousness, similar to the consciousness that an indie ears had because they have had an experience with a consciousness that transcends their bodies. And through the miracle of this exploration and this experience, we can create the inner state that allows outer prosperity. And that's why I love your book so, because your book depicts many people who have actually had this state. And many people who experience the Course in Miracles, they often wonder, how can I achieve this state and maintain it? And they realize that A Course in Miracles can help them to do that. And seeing examples, no matter how they got there, seeing examples of others who have experienced and maintained this state is so helpful. And that's why we, on the miracle of prosperity, we wanted to have you to describe other people who have had these transcendent experiences so that we can verify that these are real and you can have these transcendent experiences where you are not a body, where you are free, where you feel the unconditional love of Source, where you feel as if you are more than just your body and that you are connected always to Source, to unconditional love. What are your thoughts on that, Bob?
The the people that have that have had an NDE, they change thoroughly. I mean, they
Yes,
become less materialistic. They
yes,
become more loving towards
yes,
other people. They're more
yes,
interested in the well-being of other people and of
yes,
nature, of animals.
yes,
There,
yes,
those are the very obvious after effects,
yes.
and everyone can change.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that through A Course of Miracles, as you say,
Yes,
when
yes.
you really understand um, that unconditional love is very important. I
Mm-hmm.
think there is also another way to change, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that is also the reason why NDErs change, especially when they have seen their life review. In a
Yes.
life review, typically you see, of course, your life. You see
Mm-hmm.
every. You can zoom in a detail. You can
Mm-hmm.
see the overview.
Yes.
What the thing is that you see what you do to other people as if you are those other people. You
Yes.
are the receiver, as someone said.
Yes.
So whatever you do to another, be it nice or less nice, you
Mm-hmm.
will experience that not only from your own point of view, but also from the other's point of view, the receiver's
Yes.
point of view. You
Mm-hmm.
become the other for a moment and you see and feel what you did to this person. And that
Mm-hmm.
is something that's so overwhelming. And that is what people who have had an NDE say, that this is the thing that changed them the most. Uh,
Yes.
so,
It's
and
almost as
both
if
uh,
they have become, I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's both the unconditional love that they have felt
Mm-hmm.
and felt that that's so important, but it's
Yes.
also that that they feel the other side, and there's no
Yes.
difference between you and me.
Yes.
That's what they get out of that. That's the unity thing.
Hmm. It's almost as if they experience the idea of A Course in Miracles, that there is no separation. And as they experience that, they realize that they are one with each other and one with Source, and that any pain is simply a cry for love and a cry to open to recognize the unconditional love that has been there all the time. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it's the thing you say is the unity, and
Yes.
that's where it starts from. I think.
Yes.
And, you know,
And-
if you get conscious of what you do to others, then you will
mhm.
change your life. You will do differently to others, and you
Yes.
don't need to have had an NDE to arrive at that point.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
why some people say NDEs also is some kind of benign virus. It spreads to other
Yes.
people who haven't had an NDE but
Yes.
understand or feel this
Yes.
or feel
Yes.
the truth in it.
Yes. And in A Course in Miracles parlance, uh, I am not alone in the effects of my healing. When I am healed, I am not healed alone.
And
So no matter how we get to that space, when we are aware of ourselves as more than our bodies, when we are aware of our eternal nature, when we are aware of our internal, intrinsic essence, which is love, and we share that energy, that vibration, that knowledge, that experience with others, whether we know it or not, whether we intend to or not. And that shift in us creates a shift in others. Would that be accurate?
Can I give you a quote here? Because this
Yes, absolutely.
that really goes into this moment.
Yes.
Someone said, I realize that we are all one with universe.
Mm,
So when I hurt someone, I was really hurting myself. And
yes.
even more so, I was hurting every soul in universe. I came
Yes.
to know that I'm the light of God.
Hmm.
So that resonates with what you said. So if
Yes.
you hurt someone, you hurt others, you hurt yourself,
Yes.
you hurt
And
the.
the other aspect of that, Bob, is there's a lesson in the Course in Miracles, I am the light of the world, which is the last part of that phrase. And, when you hear that in a vacuum, you think that's quite egotistical. But actually, it's the most humble thing there is, because you when you work with the idea, I am the light of God, I am everything, I am everyone, you have lost the sense of yourself as an ego. You have lost the sense of yourself as a body. You have lost the sense of yourself that feels separate from you, others, or God. And you have, as many of your people who have had NDEs say, you have become one with the all. What do you think of that?
We are already one with the all because we are divine. We have God
Yes,
within us. The
yes,
problem is to express your divinity, and that is difficult in this world where we have time and place. On the other side, there
yes,
is no time. There is no difficulty with place.
yes,
Everything is easy. There's a total
yes,
liberty, but here it is not. So we have
yes,
to struggle, and that makes
yes,
it difficult for us to show the divine within us. But that's the purpose.
yes,
That's the
yes,
purpose of life. We have to try
absolutely.
to show the God within us in
Yes,
every
and A Course in
single.
Miracles actually offers us a path to do that through the exercises, through the meditation, and through the study. And it helps us to cultivate that experience of ourselves similar to the experience that people who have had an NDE have experienced. That's why I urge folks who are searching for that sense of oneness, that sense of transcendence, that sense of being at one with God, to review to review the experiences of others who have had that experience through NDEs. That's why I love your book and urge others to experience your book, because it tells those who are on the path of prosperity called A Course in Miracles, it tells them, yes, this is true. Yes, this is real. Yes, this is possible. And no matter how you get there, you will get there. You can have this experience. And the miracle is the shift in perception that causes you to allow all the love that God has for you, to allow yourself to experience all that love, to allow yourself to be all that love, to allow yourself to exhibit all that love, and to allow yourself to anchor onto the earth and magnify all that love. And by doing so, you place yourself in an inner state of prosperity that has no choice but to show up in your outer world. And that is the miracle of prosperity. And the book, Impressions of Past Impressions of Near Death Experiences, can give you a feel for another way that others have experienced this, so that you know that it is not only possible, but that it is inevitable. And that's why I wanted to share this book and you, Bob, with everyone who is on the path of prosperity. So I'm so glad you were here. I'm so glad you shared your wisdom. I'm so glad you shared your light. And I know you have more. So we're going to go to another commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss what more you've got here on the miracle of prosperity.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
People of African Descent New Thought Group proudly presents Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village, Thursday, August 1st through Sunday, August 4th. Some of our greatest keynote speakers, some of our finest musicians and vocalists, some of our amazing and experienced panelists, and some of our fabulous masterclass presenters will be there for you at Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village this summer. Regular registration ends June 30th, so don't delay. Register today at padntg.com. Sponsorship opportunities are available at padntg.com. Volunteer opportunities are available at padntg.com. Go there now, padntg.com. See you there.
And we're back here on the Miracle of Prosperity with Bob Coppice, author of Impressions of Near-Death Experiences. And it's been such a pleasure learning from you, Bob. We learned that people who have had near-death experiences have had that transcendent experience where they recognize themselves not as bodies, personalities, races, sexes, orientations, or economic situations, but they experience themselves as light, as love, and as connected with everyone, everything, and the source of light and love. And that is what we learn in A Course in Miracles as well. And that experience and cultivating that awareness of ourselves is cultivating a prosperity consciousness, because it is simply the cultivation of the consciousness of love that allows love to take all different forms in our lives. So there's a parallel there. And I'm so glad you helped us to understand that parallel. So you're so talented, and I thank you so much, and our viewers thank you as well. What are you up to these days, Bob?
Actually, I'm very busy already with our conference, the IANS International Conference, and that will be in Phoenix. Last year it was in Washington. I had my keynote speech there for my book. And this year I'm working a lot to attend to the speakers, and I'm also board member of IONS, and I'm working with children here in the Netherlands who need extra attention for their language and for arithmetic, and that, yeah, I love to do that. That's really, I do too many things. So this is important now at this moment. I'm going to the United States within a month, and then travel around and go to the IONS conference.
Wonderful.
You, Jim, what are you
Oh,
doing? What
oh.
is in your life? What is happening in your on your side?
Well, I'm working on a new book, so I want everybody to mark this date. My birthday, September 1st,
Oh,
because that is when my new book will be released called Forgive Your Way to Prosperity. And in the meantime, I've got a new podcast. In addition to this one, The Miracle of Prosperity, I'm doing a second podcast now called Spirit Speaks on the World Today. This podcast originated when all of this drama and conflict and conflama and confusion about our political process started bubbling up. People wanted to feel a sense of what is spirit saying, because I hear what all these pundits are saying. And people wanted a sense of reassurance of what the big picture was and that everything was going to be okay. So I channel this group of beings, the masters of planetary healing and transformation, and they give us guidance from a spiritual perspective on the things that seem troubling and tumultuous in our world. And that's live every Monday at 5 p.m. It's called Spirit Speaks on the World Today. So that's my newest endeavor, and I share my producer on this show on that show as well, Michael Mangus, and we thank him so much. Thank you so much, Michael, for doing both shows. And I want to thank our viewers, and I want to thank you, Bob, for spending your time with us today here on the Miracle of Prosperity.
thank you too for having me on your show. And it's you're a busy guy. Two
Yes,
shows, wonderful.
and a
And the book is
pleasure,
coming
Bob.
up. Very nice.
Yes, it's a pleasure. And thank you here on the Miracle of Prosperity.